afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today for Tuesday, September 9th. It's Alexis Garcia here, and stocks ticked higher today as investors reacted to more jobs data coming in, showing some further weakness in the labor market. And we also had an Apple event thrown into the mix there as well. And here with us to help break down all of today's market action is IBD News editor Ed Carson. Ed, we got to stop meeting like this.
All right, we're just going to have to get started. We're going to do a lot of this week.
I feel like that's more of a threat to our viewers than a promise. What do you have on the docket for us today?
I want to take a look at Apple, CVR Energy, and Palantir Technologies.
All right, well, we'll get to those stocks, but let's check in on the major indexes first because we had some record closes, near record closes. The S&P 500 up about 0.3% today. The Dow up 0.4%. The Nasdaq also closing the day almost up 0.4%. And small caps, which have been so strong, taking a little bit of a hit today, down about 0.6%. So Ed, let me get my screen share going here and let's talk some stocks. We'll start with the S&P 500. This one inching towards record highs, probably had a record close here today, but thoughts here with the market?
Yeah, nice day for the market, or just okay day, a bit somewhere between okay and nice. We're right at highs. We're still at the very top of a range. So that's still a possibility. We could always sink back into it, but we also seem to be at the cusp. Can we make another leg here? So it'll be really interesting to see. The breadth wasn't particularly strong today, but but even with Apple being down and maybe Nvidia not doing much, there were a number of leading stocks. There were a number of buy signals. So it was sort of, for stock pickers, it was a good day. For the broad market, it was okay. It's hard to get too upset when you're at record closes for the S&P and the Dow, and the Nasdaq did peak out to a record high, it appears. The Dow is still acting well, like just below some record highs, but you can see they're sort of still at the top of that range. So there were buying opportunities. Just be ready in case we flip back down. But it's definitely been a time to be heavily invested in looking for new buying opportunities.
All right, well, let's jump on over to the Nasdaq because, as you mentioned, record high here today. Thoughts here with the tech-heavy index?
Yeah, I mean, this one had the clearest range, and the last couple of days, it's been trying to get through it. So it's moving higher. There were some strong moves, and not just in tech names, but there were definitely some positive leadership roles. And yeah, the general trend. I mean, I can nitpick here and there. It's like, oh, it could come down, but look, the market has made a nice bounce last week off the 50-day line, basically, and since then we've been sort of trending higher. We're at record highs. This is a pretty good market.
All right, and let's check in on small caps quickly because this has been showing some strength, but again, down today about 0.6%. So, what are your thoughts here with the IWM?
Yeah, it lagged a little bit today, but also the Nasdaq tested the 50-day line last week. This tested the 10-day line, so it's like, you don't have to lead every single day. The relative strength line has trended higher over the last few weeks. The problem is that it's also trended lower for the past several years. But 1 or 2 days is not, that's fine. It did, breadth was a little weaker. There seemed to be strength in some of these larger tech names, not necessarily the mega caps, but larger names like Palantir, which we'll take a look at later.
All right, let's check in on the 10-year Treasury yield, Ed. It's been trending lower here over the last week, but this one ticked up slightly today, up 0.7%. So what is this telling you about where investors are and what's being expected with interest rates?
Yeah, I mean, this trend is pretty low. It's right at 5-month lows, really sharp drop recently and a longer trend over the last few months and really since the start of the year. So markets are, the today's data, there might have been some sell the news on that. I mean, on the job revisions, big job revision down, didn't really change what the current market is like. We knew hiring was stalling. And, it may have been that the market was even weaker before that. So but I don't think it didn't seem to change things too much in the bond yields, on the markets, stocks, or Fed odds. Still looking for a 1/4 point rate cut next week. We are getting the PPI inflation data and the CPI data on Wednesday and Thursday, respectively. But it would probably have to take a really tame or extremely high inflation report either way to change that quarter point cut outlook.
Well, we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. Let's check in on some sector ETFs, starting with the IBD 50. That's FFTY. This one up 0.6% today. So, what is this telling you about growth stocks?
Yeah, and there's some ups and downs, but look, generally things were going pretty well. It's really been trending higher the last several days, and really maybe for the last several weeks. Record, not well, maybe a 52-week close today, so nice action.
All right, let's hop on over to the Van Eck Semiconductor ETF. That's ticker SMH. And Chips Ed have been enjoying a little bit of a rebound here over the last week, moved above that 50-day line at the end of last week. But give me your thoughts on chips.
Yeah, chips are doing well. It's nice that Nvidia is not even really participating too much in this. The fact that the SMH is still moving up. I mean, Nvidia went up today, but it wasn't, it's still below the 50-day line. But there's a lot of strong chips in this, right now, and that's reflective in SMH.
All right, well, we talked about chips. Let's talk about software with IGV. That's the iShares software ETF. This one up about 0.5% today, and getting solidly above this 50-day line. Again, continuing this trend here. So, what's going on with software?
Yeah, trying to make its way back. I mean, Palantir is one of the biggest stocks in that ETF, and we'll be looking at that in a minute. So that helped. And I'll tell you what, the right now IGV is having a nice after-hours session, and we'll take a look at a couple of stocks that are participating in that.
We sure will. An extra bonus round for viewers today. We got to give them a little treat for putting up with us.
That's right.
Let's check on home builders because this has been an area of strength, but taking a little bit of a hit today, down almost 3%, flirting with this 10-day line, Ed. So what's going on here?
Yeah, there was a really negative earnings outlook from CNM, Core and Main. They're more of a infrastructure play, but they warned on, warned on the residential sector. So CNM, it sort of looks like all of a sudden fell 25% today. And so that one really took, it hit home builders so much, but the general rate trend has been positive. So we'll have to see on how that goes. It's come down to the buy points. Some others held above buy points. So down day, but it's been a nice trend. So this is by no means broken yet. It was not a good day though.
All right. Well, those were some of the sectors we wanted to look at, but you had some individual stocks. Let's start with Apple. That one in the news today for their iPhone reveal. The big thing coming out of that was the iPhone thin model. Uh, how would you characterize the investor reaction to that? Down 1.5% today. Looks like it's down slightly in aftermarket hours. But talk to me about what you see setting up with Apple stock.
It fell back below the 235 1.12 handle buy point, which was legitimate, buy point there. So, but by no means it didn't plunge through it. As Patrick Seitz, our Apple reporter, it was put it like there's no real surprises. We knew the iPhone 17 was going to come out. We knew that this iPhone Air was going to come out. We about these AirPods and other stuff really didn't surprise people. So we'll see going forward. But it just didn't shock anybody. So we'll see. It could easily just bounce right back. You'd like to see it keep on moving higher. Can this revive? And we'll get pre-orders on Friday, and then in stores, a little bit later, it'll start going on sale. So we'll see how consumers react to that. I think that Friday news will be important. So if you're thinking about buying it, keep that in mind. If the pre-orders are seen as strong or not strong, that could definitely be a big factor for sort of say next week going on.
All right. Well, let's take a look then at CVI. That is CVR Energy. This one, a nice move today, up about 7.5%, peaking above this 3267 buy point out of a cut base, Ed. But looks like it also powered above this little bit of a handle area here. But your thoughts here?
Yeah, it was sort of an early entry that you could have done just to sneak in a little bit because it wasn't quite long enough to be a handle. Real strength here. And you look at the fundamentals and go, why are we looking at this stock? Well, the thing is that the margins are starting to turn up quite a bit. And the ultimate thing is that any company wants to sell things for more than they're buying it, and there's the spread, basically the crack spread between what they pay for crude and what they can sell refined products for. And crude is down, say, 12% in 2025, and gasoline is basically flat, maybe just a little bit lower. And so that spread is picking up a little bit. You can see some strength there. The relative strength line's close to a new high. Uh, this has, we've seen the refiners. This is doubled since the April lows, but sort of paused a little bit, made a nice move. There were a lot of refiners that showed strength today, as people anticipate. You can see next year, we're having really, like, there were losses in the first half, but it's probably going to narrow or turn profitable again, and then big profits next year. And you just have to sort of anticipate that, because it's pretty clear what things are going to. You're going to turn profitable in Q3. It'll be sort of iffy in Q4, but then turn up again. So markets are definitely pricing that in.
All right. Well, you mentioned Palantir a couple of times. If you say Palantir three times, maybe Alex Karp will appear. That would
Yeah,
be something. But talk to me about this chart, up about 4% today, retaking that 21-day line.
yeah. It had been sort of stuck below the 21-day line the past few weeks and sort of trading around the 50-day. So it's decisively above the 50-day line, clearly above the 21-day, above most of the recent action there. It looks like, so investors could have taken an opportunity to buy here. I think this was added to swing trader today. There's an emerging consolidation. It's not there yet, but it'll be maybe at the end of next week. There could be a base, but you probably wouldn't wait till it goes all the way up to 200, or 180 or so, or whatever that the high is. Unless it came up and formed a handle. So this is a place where you could at least have started a position if you were so inclined. Again, you could say, I don't know, I don't want to be doing that. That's fine. So nobody's under any obligation to do that. But this is probably a good place to do it, where you're clearing a lot of resistance levels. So there were some measures here. And so this has been one of the strongest performers in the S&P 500. It was the number one last year. It's number one or number two so far this year. This might be another opportunity for this company that continues to show accelerating revenue growth and really powerful earnings growth.
All right, Ed. Well, those were the main stocks for us today, but we also have some earnings coming in after the close. So let's take a look at Oracle. And again, this is just coming out, so we don't have all the details for you, but we can at least look at the charts and see what the aftermarket action is like. So talk to me about Oracle, closing today up 1.3%, but aftermarket looking like it's having a very good time.
Yeah, the first thing I looked at was that there was the it missed on earnings and revenue, but there was some suggestions about backlog and other things that were really powerful. Obviously, definitely want to take a look at investors.com for that. But huge move. It sort of was right at the tip of a early entry here. Well, that's going to just gap up right now. Look way out there, and you'll have to decide whether you want to buy something, a gap up, a few minutes into the session, or wait for it to pause and somewhat. But this, along with Palantir, are the two biggest names in the IGV ETF. So this is why it's going up here.
Right. What about Rubrik also reporting today? Finished the day up 3%. It also looks like it's edging higher after hours here. But talk to me about this. Looks like it's forming the right side of this base pretty nicely.
Yeah, teased a lot of things, and with sideways market, we'll have a lot of these fake breakouts or fake buy signals. But it was flashing buy signals this week, but earnings were right away. So we'll see. There is, at this point, it might be actionable even if it doesn't break out. It's close to the breakout. We'll see. I mean, it's only up a little bit. I'm sure that this could go all over the place before the open. This is also an IGV, just not. This is not as big of a holding.
All right. How about Synopsys? Again, another one reporting today, down about 5% after hours, down slightly today. Looks like it's right at that 21-day line.
Yeah, I think if it had moved higher, it would have been like an early entry. Just got to clear over the last few days, but doesn't look like it. So this is why you wait. So like Oracle sort of look like this, and look, that's up 15%. Well, this one's down 6%. This is why earnings is such a difficult thing. So that's down. I think it missed views. And I think, could you also take a look at CDNS? These are both chip design, electronics design software makers. So far, CDNS is only down a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how that reacts, because that was sort of flashing buy signals earlier in the week. We'll see if it reacts to that. But both of these stocks are in IGV and SMH. They're a rare company that's actually in both, given they're really important companies. But Synopsys not looking so good right now.
All right, well, one more just before we let you go. Let's look at Aero Environment. That's ticker AVAV. This one down about 2.5% today. Also looks like it's down slightly in after hours action, Ed. So any thoughts here?
Yeah, I haven't looked at the numbers here, but we'll see how that goes. It needs to get above the 50-day line. This one can really move both directions on earnings. So uh, have to see that. It'll be interesting to see if other drone makers move on this. It's an important company in that space, but not acting great right now.
All right, Ed. Well, thank you as always for your insights today. And you're going to have a whole lot more of me and Ed this week. We'll be back right here tomorrow after the close. And you can also start your day with more market analysis tomorrow morning with IBD Live. You can head on over to investors.com/IBD Live for all the details there. Mark Minervini will be our special guest tomorrow. So you will definitely want to check that out. And again, we'll be right back here tomorrow after the close. Thank you so much for watching.